So welcome to Ames Public Library, both in person and virtually, for this program on running for elected office. Presented in partnership with Story County, City of Ames, Ames Community School Board, and we have our League of Women Voters folks in the back as well. I'm Kathy Cooney. I'm an adult services librarian, and the library's mission is to connect you to the world of ideas through diverse and inclusive resources and programming like tonight's event. For those of you here in person, this room has an induction loop for the benefit of hearing aid users. Just switch your hearing aid to T. We also have a hearing assistance device available in the back of the room if anyone needs it. For those virtually, we have live captioning enabled. If you're not seeing the captions, turn them on by clicking the CC Live Transcript button on your Zoom menu bar. For all participants, today's session is being recorded and will be posted to the library's YouTube channel after the event. You'll be able to find information and links about running for office on our website at amespl.org/runningforoffice, which is also part of our Civic Center. We will have time for questions at the end, which on Zoom you can put into chat or the Q&A. And in person, my colleague and I will come around with microphones. We do ask that you use the microphone so the people on Zoom and on the recording can hear you as well. And during and after the program, we will have our lovely League of Women Voters folks back there to help register to vote. All right, so that's all of my introductory matter. So would you lovely panelists like to go ahead and say a little bit about yourselves, the office you hold, name, good introduction.
I'm Gloria Betcher. I am the current representative for Ward 1 on the Ames City Council, and I'm also the mayor pro tem. I've been on council since 2014 and am in my third term.
Well, good evening. My name is John Haila. I'm a mayor and I've been serving for 5.5 years. I have my entire family here in town, so it's fun to represent them. I have 2 sons. And out of 2 sons, I have 8 grandkids. So we're blessed to have a wonderful family here in the community, as well as a great community to represent.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Heddens, and I'm a Story County Supervisor. I was appointed to the Board of Supervisors in 2019 and then ran in 2020 and 2022. I was filling a vacancy that had been left by then Supervisor Rick Sanders. Prior to serving on the Board of Supervisors, I served for about 17.5 years in the state legislature.
I'm Lucy Martin. I'm the Story County Auditor and also the Commissioner of Elections for Story County. I was originally appointed when my successor left to go work for the Secretary of State's office, and then subsequently elected, and I'm now serving my 3rd term as County Auditor.
I'm Sabrina Shields-Cook. I am the current president of the Ames Community School Board. I was elected in 2019 and am in my 3rd year as president.
And I'm Stacie Herridge. I'm your Story County recorder. I'm starting to serve my 3rd term. Before running for office, I've spent, 27 years. I think I'm starting my 27th year for the county. So I look forward to some good questions today. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And for all of the questions that I ask you are welcome to go in table order if it's easier for you, but feel free to just be chaotic and skip around as well. So first question, what inspired you to run for office?
Well, I had not really thought about running for office. And in 2013, when the election was being held, I was working as the co-president of our South Campus Area Neighborhood Association. And so I was known as a community person. And I was approached by a number of people who said, we have to have somebody run for council who understands neighborhoods and who cares about us, because they were scared that the other person running at the time would have no idea what neighborhoods need and what the core issues are facing our established neighborhoods. So I was dragooned into running, and I had no clue what I was doing. And I'm very glad I ran, but it was never my dream to be on city council. And now I would say that I really enjoy being on city council and making a difference.
Interesting, we have a little bit of a South Campus area connection. I had a architecture and engineering firm for 30 years and actually was in Boone for a while. I went to Iowa State in 1972, 1976, and then raised a family next door, but had my feet in both communities. And when we moved our business to Campus Town in 2009, and got involved with Campus Town Action Association, getting that reinvigorated, and had occasion to appear before City Council a number of times on behalf of CAA, and I was extremely impressed with just their the progressive forward vision for the community, and they were very supportive of what was going on. And I'd always been intrigued just by community service, and as an architect and engineer, I served just countless clients in a leadership and advisory and representative role. And so in 2016, I sold my company and retired, and was actually considering potentially running for a council member. And kind of like Gloria, I was approached by some people and said, would you consider running for mayor? And as I evaluated it, and I actually talked to about 70 different people over a course of about 2.5 months and just got their counsel. I just saw that really mayor was a better fit for me from the standpoint of having run over 2,000 meetings for city city functions, county, school boards, whatever my professional capacity. And also I just really like collaborating and working together with individuals and representing the community. I joke sometimes and say I have 66,000 bosses now instead of just a few clients. But we're just blessed to have an amazing city council that works extremely well together. And I tell people I'm spoiled. I mean, they may not always agree, but they sure work hard, to do what's best for the community.
I would agree with that completely.
When I first ran for office, which would be back in 2002, I have 2 adult children, one of whom has an intellectual disability, and that was really kind of my driver for running for office. Just seeing the challenges of navigating the kind of quote unquote system, and thinking I'm a pretty well-educated person. And if it's challenging for me, it's got to be challenging for other people as well. So I could either complain about it or run for office and try to address that. And that's what I did, and spent much of my tenure during my legislative years working on mental health and disability issues, which are kind of my passion areas. I then transitioned, as I said earlier, to county supervisor. I was already kind of considering of not running again for the state legislature, but wanted to finish up that term when a position opened for the county. And I remember probably getting over a weekend about 100 different text messages or phone calls of people saying, would you consider throwing your name in for supervisor? And at the time I was sick with pneumonia. So it was, you're trying to sleep, but it was just really an honor to get that much support. And it was bipartisan support. It wasn't just from one party at all. So I threw my name in the hat and thought, I can bring my experience from the legislature, particularly that mental health and disability, which is such a predominant issue, not only in our county and our state, but nationally, bring that expertise to the table as well. And have enjoyed the opportunity of working with the colleagues that I do at the county, our collaboration with the city and other entities, but just working in general for the citizens of the county on issues that are most important to them, whether it be, mental health and disability issues to other infrastructure issues, transportation, housing, for example.
Wow, nobody ever asked me to run for office, so that's I'm gonna put that out there right away. So I've been working in public service my entire adult life, which is coming up on like 33 years now, which makes me feel old, but that's okay because my daughter's grown and gone. So I guess that's how it works. When I first moved to Iowa in the early aughts, I had a really hard time meeting people. I had a hard time finding a job that fit my abilities and salary wants and needs. And I worked on a campaign. And then shortly after I started doing that, I got a really good job with the county. Did not have any aspirations for public, to be a public elected official at the time. but there's not a lot of room for advancement at the county level unless you go up to that elected level. And there was an open seat in 2010. I ran for that successfully at the primary, unsuccessfully at the general. So anyone that's considering running for office, when you lose an election, it feels very personal, but you get over that pretty fast because it really is not personal. So I'm just gonna lay that on the table. And then when my boss left the office, which was a surprise to everybody, was not looking to supplant her or challenge her in any way, but that was a great opportunity. And I was appointed to that. And then the people of Story County have agreed with that decision and elected me 3 times since then. So yeah, and no small child dreams of becoming a county auditor. So, but a grown-up that's worked in the trenches for a while might.
Well, prior to serving on the school board, I had always been involved in my children's schools. I had served as the president of the nonprofit association that ran their preschool, and the school board, the PTO president at Meeker for several years. And it felt kind of like the next evolution. It was a similar situation where it was going to be an election year, and several folks had decided they were not going to run again. So I can't even remember who the first person was to approach me, but it wasn't something I had ever even considered. And to be honest, I had never even attended a school board meeting before I decided to run. So having said that, it has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. And I'm so very grateful that folks encouraged me to give it a shot.
Well, my aspirations started by, I was in Leadership Nevada, the very first class of Leadership Nevada, and I was going around to all the different county offices. And the former recorder, Sue Vandekamp, said to me, well, do you know what we do? And I said, well, no. So she kind of talked a little bit about it, and she happened to have an opening that came up shortly after our Leadership Nevada. And she reached out to me and said, well, what do you think about coming and working with me? And then I will retire sometime and you could run for office. And I'm thinking, okay, so how many 26, 27 years later, here I am. And I tell you, I learned a lot from Sue. I love to give back to my community. I'm trying to be involved in, different civic organizations, different groups of people, and working for the county it just feels right. And I love my job. I get to work with great people. And I wouldn't, I would never have dreamed, after you graduate from high school and you think, where will I be? Did I think I would be back in my county? And I probably would have said no when I was 18, but I'm so thankful that I stayed. So.
And thank you all. And springboarding off of when you said you went to the recorder's office and didn't know what they did, can you all talk a little bit about what you do in your roles?
Sure, I can go ahead and start.
So Gloria
Don't start.
Yeah, Stacie
I'll
volunteered.
go ahead and start. So a lot of people don't know what the recorder's office does. I always tell people that we're the fun office. If you need to get married or want to take a trip and need a passport, you buy a new boat or 4-wheeler, come register it with us. Or if you buy a new house, you come and register your property with us. So we maintain the deeds and the history of the county in our office. So that's what we do. A day, it just depends. We deal a lot with the public, face to face, on the phone, via email. So that's a lot. It's really customer driven. And it's also, if you look at the economics of the whole United States, housing market, when the housing market was great, we were really, really, really busy. Now it's kind of evened out, but we're so thankful that we have a county that's always growing. So we stay busy. I would say, with Iowa State University serving the students and the citizens throughout the year, we have those peaks and valleys, but I have a staff of 5, including myself. I consider myself a working recorder. I'm there most days, right next to my other coworkers. We have a great team. And I think that's it.
I appreciate this question because again, when I ran for school board, I really had no idea what the school board did. And I found a lot of the questions that we were asked at the public forums were about things that I later understood to not be the responsibility of the school board. So I'm always grateful for the opportunity to talk about what the school board does do. And so the school board has a governance role for the school district, which is different from a management role. That would be what the administrators do. So an analogy that we like to use is that if you think of it as a ship, we point the ship in the direction we want it to go, but we don't row the ship. So that's up to the staff. They're the ones that row the ship. The primary responsibilities for the school board are we set policy for the district, we oversee the budget, and then we hire and supervise the superintendent. So we don't have any responsibility over any other staff member, just we have one employee as a school board. And then we have that just very high level oversight over the district.
County Auditor's Office is 11 people, including myself. We have 5 main statutory duties. The most public facing one is the election component, but we're also in charge of budget and finance for the county. And that includes payroll and all accounts payable. So we pay the claims. I'm also clerk to the Board of Supervisors. So we do post their agendas, take their minutes, keep their records. And then property records. So Stacie's office keeps property records by recording date, and we keep them by legal description. Which if you've ever looked at the abstract on your house, that might be really short, or it might be this long and consists of a meets and bounds description. Is that budgets and finance? I don't know if I said all 5. Drainage is not a main statutory duty. That is a secondary
It's a
one.
bonus.
Yeah. So, yeah, so we're doing a lot of different things. During an election season, everybody works on elections. Stacie did a short stint in my office as deputy, and she can tell you that she uses the deputy auditor of real estate, but she probably knows more about elections than any layperson out there. So, yeah, it's a really good group of people. I have a lot of great institutional knowledge there. If you have drainage questions, please don't come between the hours of 1 and 2, because that's when our drainage clerk goes to lunch, and that's when all the questions come in. But yeah, drainage is probably one of the most contentious issues that counties deal with. So I won't get into it here, but yeah, it's I like to call it the junk drawer in your kitchen, and everything doesn't fit neatly in any other office goes into the auditor's office. There you go.
So I kind of describe the Board of Supervisors role as the city council of the unincorporated area. So we're their representatives. We set the budget. Lucy says they keep the budget, make sure they do all the payroll and everything, but we held the work sessions and set the budget. We work to kind of balance economic growth and agricultural practices in the county. We oversee various departments. We do not oversee other elected officials' offices. They're elected to that department. And that was a little learning curve for me. Just when I came from the legislature, and, if I had a question or something wasn't working right, I'd email and say, hey, to a state department, this is going on, can you fix that? And it's like, no, contact that elected official. They will take care of their staff there. So that was just a little transition for me there. We are also the default drainage district trustees for the county. There's about 49 drainage districts in the state. So not all counties in the state deal with drainage, and it is a contentious issue. I kind of look back and thinking, gosh, when those topics came up in the legislature, I probably should have listened to Representative Orth, who sat right in front of me, just a little bit more, although those were more state focused versus local focused. And then each of the supervisors, there are 3 of us, each of us serve on about 8 or 9 boards or commissions. And it's either because it's required by state law, by 28E agreement, or by statute. So various reasons for our roles. So we're not necessarily an 8 to 5 position, just depending on what additional boards or commissions that we serve on.
This is really a good question because I think there's a lot of maybe some misunderstanding, especially if you get into grade school kids who think I can sign executive orders like the president of the United States, which is not true.
I signed a few while you were gone.
Oh, you
John.
did? Okay. We'll have to check, we'll have to talk about that afterwards. So there's a political term called a weak mayor, and there's also a term called a strong mayor. A weak mayor, which is what every community in Iowa, except for 2 or 3, has, and that means that the mayor does not vote on anything at the city council level. The only thing I can vote on is a motion. And I will not vote on a motion to break a tie. We have 6 council members, so you could have ties. I say by and large, our votes are either 6-0, sometimes 5-1, rarely 4-2. And I think it's only been a few times where we had 3-3. But I can't break a tie ever on a resolution or on a ordinance. So that's by our charter. So the mayor's position actually is officially part-time. It's really a multifaceted one. Probably the most visible is running the council meeting. As I mentioned before, in a way, it's a little bit of an easy job. I talked to some of my peers. We just have it really good in Ames compared to some city councils where really they have their hands full essentially with even decorum among council members. Then there's some default positions. One is I'm the chair of the conference board. The conference board actually is made up of supervisors, some school districts, and the city council. Anything that gets revenue from property taxes and Ames, there's representative on that. So the school board has representative, supervisors do. And we have a term called city assessor. Well, the city assessor actually is not a city employee. It's actually hired by the conference board, and the conference board oversees it. And when you appoint an assessor, it's a 6-year term. And it's almost impossible to get them unseated. And that's by design, because they do not want that to become a political position to try and influence how property taxes are being, or how assessments are being made. So we went through the process of hiring a new assessor. And so as chairman, was involved with that. Serve on the emergency management. We have a tremendous Story County Emergency Management Association. Linda, not Lisa, but Linda serves as chair. But you think about all the trains that go through Ames every day. Well, there's hazardous materials. What happens if something derails? What happens if you remember the pileup on Interstate 35 a few years ago when you had the blizzard? People are getting out there. It's not by accident that they're getting out there. And so every mayor, a supervisor, and the sheriff are all on the boards. We have like 15 or 16 members. We meet quarterly. We're going through strategic planning right now. I also serve as a city representative going down to the legislature. So believe me, I spent a lot of time down there this past session. We won't go down that path tonight. But anyway, the point is that really it's actually a spokesperson for the city of Ames. And then I just been privileged to work with the supervisor, with Sabrina, the school district, Iowa State University. I really worked hard to strengthen what already were, I think, some good partnerships, but relationships, because I think we're always singing from the same hymnal, probably the same page too, and that is we want Story County to be successful, because if Story County is successful, Ames is successful, and vice versa. And then we have Asset with Sandra, helps, out with, which is a tremendous organization. So it's kind of wearing multiple hats. Did anyone mention emails? There's a lot of communication that goes on, but for example, if letters are going out on behalf of the council, I'll be the one signing them. And also, I'm also authorized, I'm kind of like a CEO, I'm authorized to sign all contracts. The city council has to approve the contracts, or staff if it's underneath their purview. But I'm actually the one who signs on behalf of the city of Ames to commit, to that as well too. So it's really a multiplicity. But again, it's just and it's listening to a lot of people and engaging conversation, and always can do more, but it's it was supposed to be a part-time job. Sometimes it's full-time. It depends upon it from January during budget time through May. It can almost be a full-time job. But anyway, it's very rewarding, and it's something that it's never the same. Gloria's joking, but I just had the privilege of going over to Japan. We have a sister city relationship with Koshu City. We celebrate our 30th anniversary. Let me tell you, people say, how'd it go? I said, well, it exceeded my expectations. Those people know how to really put on a celebration. And they're coming in October. They're going to have the mayor from Koshu City is coming, along with some other dignitaries. So we're going to really talk on that up too. But so anyway, I was honored to represent. And in their minds, the mayor is a lot more powerful than what the mayor is, because in Japan, the mayor is the city manager. He's also the school board, or he's the superintendent. He also is in charge of police and fire and budget, and it's amazing. And he's also elected. So anyway, and I will say this: council's also like the school board is two things: is a policymaking body. Council hires the city manager and the city attorney. That's it. And then the city manager is asked to run all the departments. And I think that's a really wise way of doing it. There's some cities where the mayor is actually the city manager also, which means every 4 years, department heads could have a new boss. And being a manager is really a skill. And so we're very fortunate to have a very skilled city manager. So there's continuity for our staff. And the other thing is, I'm just really proud of the fact that we all stay in our lanes. What I mean is that the city council focuses on city issues, the school board focuses on school issues, the county, Iowa State, and we talk and engage in conversation. We dialogue, we try and work together. But the point is, we're not telling the school board what to do, and vice versa. And it works really, really well there. And we respect the fact that they're elected to represent their particular bodies.
Well, John has covered quite a bit of how the city council works. And I guess I would reiterate a few things. One is that these are part-time positions in the city of Ames. And so my full-time job is a teaching professor of English at Iowa State. And that can get in the way, city council can get in the way of that job, and that job can get in the way of city council because of the nature of the timing, especially at budget time when we have lots of meetings back to back for hours at a time, every day of the week. Well, not weekends, thank goodness. And so that balance can be challenging. John has the luxury of being retired from his quote unquote real job to do another real job. And the rest of us on council are balancing some other position that actually pays our living wage with city council, which is, I think we're paid $10,000 a year now.
I got paid 11.
Yes, he's overpaid. It's just incredible. But we are not full-time employees of the city, unlike the Story County employees over here that are
Right.
elected officials.
Okay.
And so when people contact us, when we get lots of emails, sometimes we always read our emails, but it can be challenging dealing with the
Right.
email backlog. So we always confirm for people, we're reading your emails, even if you don't get a response. We're kind of counting on others on council to pick up the slack at times when we might be too busy to send that same response. So if you do email us, you might get a response from one council member, but all of us have read what you have sent us.
I just mentioned too, is that the reason for the low salary, and I understand that school board gets nothing. So I mean, she's gonna say, well, I get nothing. So, but it's really the design is they don't want people to run for city council to make it a full-time job.
Mhm.
It's really to be public service and not to have someone who's trying to be a city council person for 20 or 25 or 30 or 35 years. And this is no disrespect at all to the supervisors or anybody else. That's just how it is in the city council, world. And in fact, in some cities, some smaller cities, they get paid like $25 or $50 a meeting. That's what you get. So it's a very, for the amount of time that's put in, I don't even want to figure out how much you get paid per hour.
I did at one point.
Okay,
I think we were getting $3.25 an
Yeah.
hour, not counting our emails.
So the reason, but the point is, I'm not doing it. Gloria's not doing it for the money. We're doing it because we care about our community and want to give back and really make and strengthen our community and make it even better.
Now, having said that, I am someone on council who pushed for a higher council salary because I believe that in Ames, we have a rather homogeneous council. And the only way we're going to get people to step up to run for office who may come from lower income backgrounds or have challenging situations where they have small children or they're doing elder care is to give council members a little bit more money to offset what they're going to have to pay for a caregiver. And so we've had that discussion on council, and I think all of us on council are committed to the idea of the pay as a mechanism to get more involvement. And it can be challenging in these political times to get people to run for office. The good thing is that generally speaking, municipal office is not fraught with the same political divisiveness as you see at the state or federal level, because we are nonpartisan. And all of us on the council are committed to being nonpartisan and to listening to all sides of an issue. And I think that what I've learned in my terms is that community members assume we have a lot more power than we actually do. We're policymakers. We do not tell staff how to do their jobs. They are experts in their fields. And we have a city manager who is the longest sitting city manager in the state of Iowa and may even at this point be close to the longest sitting city manager in the country, who council believes is doing an excellent job. And we rely on his expertise and the expertise of those many, many staff members who have been hired because they're good at what they do and who are committed to our excellence through people pillars within the city. So you have working for you a team that is full of people who are committed to offering the best possible customer service at the lowest price. And so council is charged with approving budgets and being sure that the budgets that are presented to us reflect the priorities that we have set. But we don't micromanage the departments, telling them where to spend their money. We may have discussions with departments about why funds are being spent in particular ways, but it is not our job to tell the staff how to run the city. Thank goodness, because we all are specialists in other things. And so we can bring our perspectives together on council to inform decisions and shed light on staff decisions from a different angle, but we are not the experts in those fields. I won't tell someone how to engineer a street. I will, however, take your emails if you have a pothole on your street that you're concerned about, and I'll make sure that those get routed through the correct channels to the people who can do, as Lisa said, you find out who the people are who can handle those things. And in our case, we send everything to the city manager and he decides who the right people are for those jobs that we have flagged as significant. So we're a conduit between the residents and city staff. We're also the nominal boss. I guess we hire the city manager and the city attorney. And so we're charged with reviewing them on an annual basis and determining their pay raises and whether we're satisfied with how they're doing their jobs. And we also are on boards and commissions. Each of us is assigned to one board or commission. And I have been serving on the Discover Ames board, that's formerly the Ames Convention and Visitors Bureau board, for about 8 years now, because my schedule doesn't allow flexibility for some of the other committee and appointments. But typically, we try to move people through other appointments. So I've also been on the Ames Economic Development Commission board. And it's a way for us to learn more about our partners and also about how the community works in those committee settings. So we get to know people, we get to know who we can ask about what's happening with economic development downtown, or what's happening with RAGBRAI, and how that's going to be run.
More questions?
Thank you. So we've talked about what you do, and we talked about why you first started doing it, but what do you most enjoy about your position? What keeps you coming back?
Somebody in the middle.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I remembered my 5th duty, so I'm going to share that, which is keeper of the official map for Story County. So I have a mapping technician in my office, but any road name you see on there, any address point, if you're familiar with the Beacon website, and if you're not, then you're really missing out on an opportunity to stalk your neighbors. So that's actually really one of my favorite parts of the job is maps. I don't have a GIS background or anything like that, but I've always liked looking at maps, and it's really fun that the official one is kept in my office. So probably there's not a typical day in the auditor's office, which is the thing I like most about it, and probably the thing that aggravates me the most. So when you get there at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're just not quite sure what your day is going to look like. So make a plan, but be flexible is how you have to get through every day. Yeah.
I like the diversity that goes on with at county level. As I mentioned before, I got into kind of running for office on mental health and disability issues. So serving on the our mental health and disability, or the CICS mental health and disability regional governing board. Looking at identifying where are some of the gaps in our county, how can we fill those? One of the big things that we recently did as a region is we funded YSS's new campus, Ember, that's being built down in Cambridge. The region, we supported it by giving them about $15 million. So that doesn't cover their entire project, but that was a big chunk to be a part of. And it was a unanimous vote with the other counties, because we all recognize that collectively we need to work together to address mental health situations for our youth and those that are then transitioning to adulthood there. I also like this, we don't have a typical day. I think that's one of your questions potentially, so I'll hold off on.
I rolled it into the last.
This one, okay, you're good. So, we don't have a typical day. I can't say that I go to the office and it's an 8 to 5 day. Some days I have meetings that start at 7 a.m. in the morning. I'll have a Zoom meeting that go on at 7 a.m. or I might have Zoom meetings that start at 7 p.m. So there's flexibility throughout the day to run home and let my dog out and stuff and come back, just depending, what we're working on. Some of the boards and commissions that I serve on is like Aging Resources of Central Iowa, the Board of Health, the Mental Health and Disabilities Region that I said. I'm also on Workforce Development Board. I'm on 2 boards now for our national organization, one focusing on healthy counties and one on economic development. I know I'm missing more. I'm currently the chair of Mid-Iowa Community Action as well. I'm on the ARC board that is separate from my job, but it's also kind of in connection with it because of the issues that they deal with within our community. So, just a lot of issues going on. And I do want to say that I mentioned before about the board having various departments that we oversee. So we're not directly overseeing them. We actually have our director of internal operations and external operations that are the point persons with those other departments and stuff, because we just don't have the the time or whatever to put in, more the day-to-day things, but they do come to us if there's other issues that need to be addressed beyond their capacity.
See, for me, I'm very relationship driven, so I really enjoy working with people, be it council, staff, the community members, fellow elected officials, Iowa State University. And I really also enjoy, I enjoy learning. I enjoy asking a lot of questions. I sometimes annoy people a lot because I ask a lot of questions, but I'm an inquisitive person. So that this opportunity allows me to do that, but also just want to give back and really seek the welfare of the community. And so I think all of us that are up here are doing it because they want to give back to the community. It's not because we're trying to get something. It's actually, in a way, that the benefit we get is actually secondary, but sometimes you really need that because sometimes it's really rough. We're very fortunate. I would say we maybe had, I can't remember one time where I had to gavel somebody at a council meeting that was a public member. People are respectful. They may not agree with us, and that's fine, but the point is that you just want to protect that. So but I really enjoy working with with the council members as well too, and moving things forward. But it's certainly I think you have some questions about, what are some of your accomplishments. I think that there's some things we've all gone through as a nation, as a world, that really challenged and I think kind of upset the apple cart for a couple of years. But through that, we actually forged some strengthened relationships with other people.
So I'm also someone who enjoys meeting people and making connections. And I worked as the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission in Ames for 7 years before being on council. And so I was starting to learn more about the city at that point. And I think one of the things I enjoy the most is that I can see the ways in which my expertise and background can benefit the council, can benefit the community, can bring perspectives that are valuable. And I've often, I guess, described myself as an incurable eclectic. I like to do lots of things. I like to meet people. But when you are at the university and you are specializing in something, you can become very siloed being in that environment with surrounded by people who are also academics. And so getting out and meeting other people has allowed me to learn much more about economic development and about road projects and infrastructure and all of that makes up the fiber of the community, the people, the infrastructure, and the policies that allow us to improve. So that's what I enjoy about being on city council, all of it.
I would say serving the public is my favorite part of the job. I've been there a long time and there's always questions that I may not have heard before, or there may be legislative changes that we have to think through. Lots of collaboration within our county. And also I've been really fortunate to do some leadership roles within the Recorders Association. So, you can always reach out to other counties. How did you handle this? What did you do? So really keep striving for that knowledge and that collaboration. I keep saying that, but like Gloria said, with the silos, it's so rewarding when you can break down those silos and really have some good conversation. And, if you can borrow an idea from another county, or you've seen the model done, or it's just, it's good to introduce those new ideas. So I think the thing that keeps me coming back is primarily just that I'm very passionate about public education. I really believe in and value public education. And I think it's critical for the success, not just of our community, but of our state and our nation, and really the future of our world depends on public education. And with how underfunded it has been and all of the challenging things that public schools are facing, I feel strongly about advocating for public education. So that's kind of the thing that keeps me coming back. Another one, I'm going to kind of steal from John. The relationship piece is something else that I really enjoy. And I think it's a reason that I have agreed to serve in the president role for 3 years in a row. That role is a little more time consuming than the other roles, but I really enjoy the building relationships with the other board members and helping the board to function cohesively. If you've paid any attention to the news, you know that not every school board in the country is functioning cohesively. And I know that school districts really struggle to be successful if you don't have a well-functioning board. And that's something that's really important to me as well. So that's a reason that I keep doing what I'm doing.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. So as the mayor alluded to, I am also going to ask about something that you or your office or your board have accomplished that you're excited about and would like to share.
Well, I got a couple things. One is, and I think this is a joint celebration, and that was when COVID hit, no one knew it was coming. And actually, it was Mayor Barker from Nevada and I were talking, and I said, you know, we need to start comparing notes with supervisors and public health and Mary Greeley. And so through the Story County Emergency Management, we got, I think I talked to either, I've been Linda, I think, and said, hey, what do you think about doing this? And said, that's a good idea. Anyway, we started in April of 2020, and we met by Zoom every Thursday night, sometimes for up to 2 hours.
Or longer.
Or longer. And we went through May of 2021, every Thursday night. And we essentially, it was almost every mayor, supervisors. We had probably 20 people on the call. And I think it really forged a strong relationship in the county. Well, we also had people from Iowa State. We had 3 people from Iowa State. They were probably the most prepared, most articulate. They had every day count. They were telling us what's going on. But the point was, we were asking, is your library going to be closed? What are you doing about City Hall? What are you doing about masks? What's going on in your school district? What's going on here? What's going on there? And just comparing notes. And part of it was you want to try and have a cohesiveness and a continuity from city to city and in the county, so it wasn't confusing to people. And it was just, and then public health always gave us an update. Mary Greeley always gave us an update on a bed count. Obviously, we were always really concerned. We didn't want to have a surge hit the hospital where we didn't have enough beds. And so we were always watching that. And the needle got a little close sometimes, but they said, don't worry, we got a phase 2 and a phase 3. So I'm really proud of how, one, just kind of being a little bit of a catalyst, but really it was all of us working together and everyone were committed. And I'm also proud of the fact that I was the one that asked the question, has this committee or this meeting outlived its usefulness? Because sometimes you start something and you don't end it. And so we all agreed, no, I think so anyways, we met, I think for every 3 weeks. And then we just said, we're good. So I think that was really good. The other thing is, and Lisa mentioned this, and that is mental health. I too am a champion for the mental health crisis that we have in our community, in our county, in our state, and in our country. So starting with the support of City Council, starting the mental health or the community conversation on mental health, we had 6 different sessions. They're all recorded. They're online. You can access them. And also we were able to get mental health first aid training out. We had 3 different sessions. We trained over 100 people. And then that merged into training at the hospital and other entities as well too. And then this fall, we're looking at bringing ASSIST, which is an additional level of suicide prevention and training. And we're just trying to get the message out. And we got to identify the fact that it is an issue and teenagers are taking their lives. And so it was, I think it was sometimes partially attended. The last one was, we had a tremendous presentation on civility and conversation. And if you have some time, watch that one. That was really a phenomenal session. Thankfully, I mean, we can all do something to even do better. But again, I've never had an uncivil conversation with anybody up here at the table. Again, we may not always agree, but that's okay. But we can serve, respect one another.
So I have two things that I can think of that I am particularly proud of. One of those also relates to the pandemic. I've taken it upon myself to try to raise the city of Ames profile on the national stage. I've been active in the National League of Cities as the chair of the University Communities Council for 2 years during the pandemic. And along with a team from the International Town and Gown Association and the International City County Management Association, we lobbied Congress for more flexible funding, COVID relief funds for college towns, and for accurate census counts in college towns. And while that was a particularly difficult Congress to convince for a variety of reasons, we banded together from multiple states to raise the profile of our college towns and university communities. And because of that, I had the opportunity to talk about Ames on the national news repeatedly and be contacted by people who wanted to know, how is Ames surviving the pandemic? What's Ames doing to remain financially stable? What are we doing to handle the challenges of a low census count, which can have ripple effects for 10 years until the next census count, and loss of federal funds and various other federal designations. So I feel that that's important, that people look to Ames as a model. The other thing that I've been working very hard on in recent years, along with the city manager, is partnering with the Community and Regional Planning Department at Iowa State to work on innovative ways to engage our residents, especially those residents from underrepresented or historically minoritized communities. That includes our students, who are a hard to reach population, but it's also many of our low and moderate income census tracts. And we are working on strategies to ensure that voices are heard and that the city acts on that input. One of the greatest challenges facing municipalities is getting input from our residents, especially those residents who trust us the least. And so I'm hoping that we've done this for several years. We may continue with it. I believe we're making some inroads and developing some new strategies. And to me, that's important, because we need that input. We need everyone at the table in order for everyone to have a high quality of life.
I can piggyback on that. The pandemic really made a lot of us think, how can we provide our services when your doors are shut? So we're really proud in our recorder's office that we've done a lot of back scanning, making more records available online, pushing that out there, really thinking outside of the box as far as helping to serve the customers more. And not only the customers, as the stakeholders, the bankers, the attorneys, the surveyors. Just because COVID hit, we didn't stop working. And it was really, there were times that we were, they were dropping stuff off at night and we would pick it up out of the lockbox and record it the next day. I mean, just trying to, I'm really proud of not only our office, but the county, the board, they were like, okay, what else can we do? Or let's look at that. And all the elected officials and department heads and the staff. I mean, we all lived through it, and we learned a lot about what's next, what can we do, and also to be prepared. So that's what I'm proud of.
I have a couple things I'll share, and they're somewhat related. So one of the things that I'm really proud of is that our district and board have at last developed a strategic plan. It is something that was talked about before I was even on the board, and something that really was hindering the work of the district, in my opinion, not having sort of a cohesive focus. What are we trying to accomplish? How are we prioritizing things? Feedback that we heard a lot was that it felt like there were a lot of initiatives, but we didn't really know, how is that tying together? Where is it trying to go? How do we know it's working? So the strategic plan will really help guide that. and guide the work of the district in general. So I'm very excited about that. Our new superintendent started last July and really made that a priority. And we will be presented with a plan to vote on at the next board meeting. So I'm excited about that. And the second one has also been mentioned multiple times of a focus on mental health. So that was something when I ran for the board, it was pre-COVID. But even then, that was a big focus of a lot of the things that community members were talking to us about, concerns that staff had, and even as board members, several of us have children who've struggled with mental health issues, and it was something that we really wanted to see brought into focus in the district. That work didn't live under any particular person, and there wasn't really any sort of structure to it. So we developed 2 years ago an ad hoc board committee for mental health. And this year, we will be rolling out a district-wide mental health plan, which I think will be really helpful for teachers and students. So up until now, some buildings have been doing some things and some buildings have been doing other things. And there's providers, outside providers have been going into some buildings, but it's all been sort of a one-off, and there hasn't really been any organization to that. So that is something that I'm really excited to see rolled out this fall. And I really think that'll make a big difference for kids.
I'm gonna sound like I've been stealing from other people, but I think COVID was 2020 was a real tester for a lot of public offices, because like Stacie said, is how are you a public office when the public can't come into your office? So some things we got really lucky on. We had already started scanning a lot of our real estate records, and those were available. So we felt, like we looked into the future for that. But also, 2020 election gets maligned a lot. You hear a lot of ugly stories about it. So I'm going to tell you some good stories about that. So in the primary election in 2020 in Story County, we had a 300% increase in voters at 2/3 of the cost. And we voted as many people on election day as we did in the previous presidential primary cycle, even though we were consolidated down to 10 vote centers. So I'm super proud of my poll workers for that and my staff. And also the state for passing emergency provisions and mailing an absentee ballot request form to all voters, because that's how 80% of the voters voted. And that accounts for the cost savings. And then the legislature went in and changed all the rules, so we can never do that again. So elections count. But and then also in that general election, we knew a little bit more. Like June, we knew nothing, right? It was really scary times, and we're like spraying Lysol on the mail and running around with gloves on, and who knew, right? So we're a little better prepared in November, but again, we processed almost exactly the same number of voters for that election that we had done 4 years ago, even though 8,000 students at Iowa State did not vote in Story County like they had previously. So that meant more of our permanent residents voted, and we had 60% absentees for that. So those were amazing numbers. Those are great stories. Everyone should be super proud, and all we hear are just ugly stories. So I just want to get some good stories out there. But I'm also, Story County was just, everybody worked together, was amazing. So people are amazing in the worst of times. So proud of being a human being.
I think I'm going to reiterate some that's already said. I would concur with the mayor in that COVID and having those jurisdictional meetings really helped with coordination, but I also think it helped with developing a bond of trust with the other jurisdictions, so that when you'd call on them, you knew it wasn't going to be a partisan response by any means, but it was really looking out for the welfare of the citizens of the county. And I think that's continued as we've moved forward. I think a couple other things that I'm really proud of is, as I said, we kind of set the budget that we've been able to keep property taxes to the lowest levels over the past 20 years, but yet still meeting the needs of the citizens. So I'm very proud that we've been able to do that, and how we delve into the budgets and carry that out. Also, Story County was the recipient of over $18 million. Now that's separate from what each of the cities received. We got about $18.9 million. And I brought to my colleagues and said, when we were trying to figure out what we're going to do with this money, and I said, what if we open it up to application to help communities? Because some of the other smaller communities didn't receive as much dollars. So we were able to put money towards wastewater in like Collins and in Sheldal, and provide food support with United Way and Food at First in Nevada, and to help with childcare initiatives down in Huxley, and housing initiatives like in Colo, for example. So we actually touched areas throughout the county, not just, there were some projects internally that we funded, nutrient reduction, part of the nature trail, some HVAC systems for recording, so that the recorders and office could get those stuff online more. So I'm really proud of just how we collaborated, had a process to get those dollars out to communities that needed it. And it's benefiting them because, you know, Ames does well when the entire county does well. And that's really what we try to look at.
Awesome. Thank you all. I realize that we're going to run a tiny bit long, but I think it's important to ask the last question that I have written down, which is, what do you think someone should know before running for office? And I'm also, either before or after this question, going to turn the floor over to Lucy for like the logistics of when you have to apply and what you have to do and all of that good stuff.
I'll start with that one. I think one of the things you need to be aware of is just the time it takes to run for office. You have to have some backbone as well, because some negative things are going to be said. You just need to take a deep breath and not do a knee-jerk response, and really kind of think it through. You know, really, my goal has always been when I run for office is, you know, nobody likes to lose. If you're running for an office, nobody likes to lose. But if I lose based on that I've done everything that I can, and I believe in all the things I've worked on and voted for, then it's okay. Then you picked the better candidate. But it's really kind of that mentality that you have in place when you're running for office, and just the time it takes. I had little kids at the time, and so just trying to navigate your balance, your time with your family and campaign.
I would say for the supervisors, school board, council, if elected, you're part of a team. You're not there by yourself trying to make decisions. We want people to bring ideas to the table. We want you to bring your unique talents, skills, viewpoint. But if people come in with an agenda, or they're trying to accomplish something on their own, one, it really disrespects the other elected officials, because they also, I mean, I have so much respect for the 6 council people. I mean, it's very rare that I'll go ahead and try and even talk to them and say, well, don't you think this or this or this or this, because I know that they've really thought through things and they prepared. So I think coming in is understand that you're part of a board or a group or a council, and commit to being a student and learning and listening, and seeking to understand. But if you come in with an agenda, I think that it could actually, backfire, on you. And what you want is cohesiveness. You don't want same-mindedness. I mean, you want same-mindedness, but you don't want to be basically robots essentially and rubber stamping everything. But you got to really, work together. 2 is realize that you have really skilled people working. I mean, Sabrina, you guys hit a home run with Dr. Lawson. I mean, what a great hire for our community. And so just sitting underneath and listening and respecting those who've been hired, and because the previous board has hired them, or council has hired them, a little different for supervisors. But the point is you have to understand that you have great staff and you got to work together as a team. The other thing is, after you get elected, it takes a lot of time too. And it's a lot of I mean, we don't keep track of hours. I mean, it's, you put the time in and it's going to vary, but our council packets that get posted on Friday nights will vary from 250 to 700 pages long. Council members are expected to have read through all of that by no later than Tuesday night, but preferably before they meet with the city manager, where we actually meet with city manager and ask questions and go through things, or we'll have a couple people, meet, which gives us a chance to really delve into it. So we don't have we did have some long council meetings when we first started, but anyway, but we're trying to be
Gotten
efficient.
better.
Yeah, very much so. So we have an efficient, running, of business. So, I would say that usually my Friday nights and part of my Saturdays are taken up just reading through the packet, highlighting things and posing questions. And that's what you're supposed to be, doing. But it is a very rewarding position after you put all the time in to get elected. But I think it's really an important aspect, is that you're part of a team. It's not 6 individual council members you need to be pulling together.
So I'll use that as a springboard, because as I look out in this audience, I see a number of people who were part of the team that helped me get elected initially. And if I didn't have a strong, supportive team behind me, I wouldn't be up here today. And so if you're going to run for office, find the people who believe in you and support you and are willing to knock on doors for you and hand materials out. Those people and their opinions should mean more to you than the naysayers and the people who are trying to tear you down when you go knocking on doors. Because that can be really demoralizing, as Lisa said. But if you have the right team, those people are there to reaffirm that you're doing the right thing. The other thing I would say is, if you are running, the media likes to make a lot out of how much you have raised in campaign financing. And all I can say is my experience says, forget about that. I think what's more important is that you get your message out. I was touted as the person who raised the least amount of money in all of the campaign and the year I was elected. And I won by over 800 votes, which was a landslide in that election. Because
for 50% is a landslide.
Yeah.
True story.
Yeah. Well, I think we had a 10% voter turnout that year, and people said, wow, that's fantastic.
That's pretty good for a city election.
Yeah. So that's kind of sad, but it isn't all about the money. It's about getting your message out and making connections with people. And that doesn't cost anything. You just talk to people and let them know what you're about.
I would say running for office is scary. It's very, you put yourself out there and make sure you have the support of your family before you announce. That's probably a good idea. Also invest in a good pair of walking shoes, because it's very important that you get to know your communities that you're representing, and talk to other elected officials. It may be in different roles or capacities, but what did they do? Or, maybe they might have a good idea, or and get to know the office, the duties of the office that you want to run for. So that would be and one more plug is that Lucy Martin was very instrumental in me running for office when I did, and encouraged me to do the Ready for Run program through Iowa State University, and that through the CAT Center. Was it through the CAT Center?
Ready to run.
Ready to Run. What'd I say?
Ready for run.
Ready for Run. Yeah. So that really, that just broke everything down. And then I just ripped the Band-Aid off and said, let's go for it. So.
Well, I think these folks have all done a great job talking about some of the things to consider about the actual process of running. So I'm going to talk a little bit about things to consider regarding serving on the board, and particularly on the school board. And I think John had an excellent point about being a part of a team. So I think especially one lesson that I've learned being on school board is that we play a really important role in the success of the district. We may not do the management, we don't control student discipline, we don't control what teachers do. But the way that the board interacts with each other, with the superintendent and with the rest of the staff is critical to the success of the district. So I know oftentimes folks run for school board because they're frustrated about something that the board has done or the decisions that administration has made. But it's really important to know that once you're on the board, we are a team, and the success of the district requires us all to work together as a team. So when we start to see that break down and there's challenges or things said publicly about a staff member, that really has a detrimental impact on the district as a whole. So it's very important to be willing to come on the board, and you may not always be happy with every decision, but you need to be willing to be a part of that team. And similarly, when the board has a decision to make that is within our jurisdiction, it's also important to be willing to abide by the decision of the board. So sometimes you might feel really strongly about something and you might make your case the best that you possibly can, and the vote doesn't go your way. It's really important to be able to put that behind you and move forward. And I know for some folks, that's something that's just really challenging. So it's something to just think about as you're deciding whether or not serving on school board might be something for you.
So there is a lot of great information out there. I know a lot of people get interested in running for office because they have one passion or one issue that they're interested in. And that might get you involved, but then you need to broaden your scope and learn some more things. And there's everything we do, I think, still gets published in the paper, but it's probably a lot easier to access it off of the website. So read the minutes for meetings, and not just the last meeting, but maybe the last couple of years. The Department of Management has every government's certified budget on there. Look at the budget, because budget drives, that's where you can see the policy. People might talk about certain things, but what they pay for is what's important. So most have audits out there. If you go to the state auditor site, you can look up anybody's audit and read that. If you don't want to read the whole thing, read the MDMA, which is sort of the plain language part to describe what they're doing. So if you can go to meetings, I know that's a lot of big time commitment, but if you're considering public office, it's going to be time commitment. So you should try to do that. I usually know when people are running for county office because you start seeing them at board meetings and you're like, oh, that's probably so-and-so that I heard is going to run. I
couldn't agree with you more. And that is, if you're considering running for school board or for city council, supervisors, you should be at every board meeting. And you should be there from the time it starts until the time it adjourns, because the point is, if you're elected, you're going to be expected to be doing that. And I started attending, I think it was in early March of 2017, and election was in November in 17. So I went to every council meeting, all the workshops. And I'll tell you what, it's very helpful, because if you get elected, you hit the ground running, because you understand some of the history and some of the genesis of things that you're going to end up coming into. But if you can't make time to come to a board meeting, then I think you really should question, do you really have the commitment to participate once you get elected? And I think it also shows respect for what's going on. One more thing I'll say is, everything that goes on in city, county, school district is complex. Nothing is simple. And people say, well, gee, why did they make that decision? And believe me, there's a lot of things that goes into it. So expect that there's gonna be a lot of things that don't. So I'm sorry, Lisa.
That's good. So yeah, there's a ton of good information out there. So also there's a lot of good information on the Secretary of State's website about just general information, candidates guides, and all the paperwork you need. Read the guides and then ask questions and then fill out your paperwork. So if you can be on I've served on a board, the Ames Board of Adjustment, before I ran for office. I think that's how a lot of people come in. And Gloria, you said you did that. The League of Women Voters, which is here, is a great institution. They, one of their duties is to go to public meetings and listen. So you could join the league and be that person and then find out, and then you get more bang for your time, I guess, that way. So, and then if you're running for office, you don't have to, I think, just anecdotally, I think a lot of people think they have to use their full legal name on the ballot. That's not true. So if you go by your middle name, that's what you want on the ballot. Because if your name is Herman John Smith and you go by John and you put Herman Smith on the ballot, nobody knows who you are. Also, you can't put quote marks on a ballot in Iowa. If you do turn your paperwork like that, we take out the quote marks. So and then running for office is weird. You talk about yourself so much, you get sick of yourself. But when you serve in any elected capacity, you're there to serve the people that have elected you. So whether that's a partisan office or a nonpartisan office, you serve everybody for that jurisdiction that you and that is a commitment that you've made for 4 years or 2 years. And that's why it is really important that you talk to your family and talk about the time commitment that that's going to be, because it's going to be even more time than you thought it was. And then if you are elected, you're always an elected official. That means whether you look great and glamorous and your hair's blown out and your makeup is fresh, maybe not for you, John, but
John always says it's.
but it's also true when you're standing, in the aisles of Target with your multi-pack of toilet paper and hemorrhoid cream, and that's when people run into you, is all I'm gonna say. So it's 24/7, even if it's a weekly commitment or a daily commitment. So
Yeah, I would echo that. I haven't had a trip to Wheatsfield that took less than 5 minutes because I always run into somebody
yeah.
who has questions.
So
I want to say too, I'm so proud of the fact that city council and school board is nonpartisan. We don't, and we will steadfastly advocate that be this kept that way. I don't care whether any council member is whatever party, I don't care, or no party, I don't really care. We're in it for the city. We're not in it for the party. And same for school board. And I understand that it happens at the county level. But the point is, I don't really care whether a Democrat, Republican, or, Martian. I don't really care. It's just, we're here to work together. And the reason I'm passionate about this is that there was a move in the legislature to actually turn local elections into partisan elections and have primaries for council. I'm not sure if it's school board or not too, but that's abhorrent to me, because the point is it's just going to bring all the baggage that can go along with what's going on at the national level and a little bit at the state level, potentially down, at the local level. And right now we have a really good system being nonpartisan. And we care about the community, not about what our party is trying to accomplish.
Thank you. And thank you all for spending your Wednesday night sitting on this panel and answering all of my questions. Susan, do you think we still have time for questions since I let it go a little bit long?
I think we could do 1 or 2 quick
Okay.
questions.
Or if we have any elected officials here who want to speak to their experience in office. But I'm cutting it close.
When did the bell go to tell us it's time to get out?
About 10 minutes. But. All right, well, I think we can call it. You have some great resources up here if you have any questions that you want to ask. And we have a lot of the resources that Lucy mentioned linked on our website at amespl.org/running for office.
Yeah, I just real quick, both the League of Cities and the Iowa Association of School Boards has really great information on their websites. I have paper copies of that here. I'm especially impressed with the school board one. They have great links for any candidate, really, if you want to get in there. So
League of Cities has a good, Iowa League of Cities is also a good resource if you're considering.
they already sent me this guidebook, which is on their website. But as a longtime connoisseur of election websites, I'm going to give it to the School Board Association. They just did a little bit more.
I think John's the
Exactly.
president of the League of Cities.
I'm not
right now,
saying
isn't he?
it's bad. I'm just saying there's room for improvement.
Duly noted.
And I also want to reiterate that if you need to get registered to vote, that we have our League of Women Voters folks in the back. Sandra from the county, did you want to?
Yes, I just have.
Susan's got a mic for you.
I am Sandra King. I am a Story County taxpayer and employee and Ames resident. And I just want to thank you for all you do, the collaboration and seeing the different entities work together. As a taxpayer, I can't tell you how appreciative I am of that. And my question is, how do you prepare your family when you decide to run? It's an individual decision, but it's also a family decision. How do you prepare your family for that?
I can start with that. Do it when your kids are really young and they don't know any different. That's great for fun and I'm just kidding. I think that, you just talk about what you want to do and, how passionate you are about the position, then it just is natural. So.
Yeah, I think having a good understanding of what the time commitment is going to look like is helpful. I think for me, I had prepared my family for one thing and then I was elected and then COVID hit. And so it became something entirely different and it was much more time during that first year. So on the bright side, all they have known is COVID and the time that I've served as president. So I think they're a little more on board with me running again if I, it might be a pared down role. So, but yeah, having an understanding of the time commitment and just making sure that you have their support because it does take you away from them. And sometimes you miss out on, I missed a band concert this year. So it's just good to make sure that they are all on board with it.
Yeah, parent teacher conferences are always the same week as election week. So I think I once showed up at Meeker School and they thought I'd been in prison or something because they hadn't seen me in like years. They're like, oh, Sylvia has a mom. So you do miss things. If your family is not supportive, I really wouldn't recommend it because those are your biggest cheerleaders that you have, but they should also support your passion. So I don't know if anyone's family has ever said no. I do now believe those stories when people say they're stepping down from public life to spend more time with their families. I used to think that was horse hockey, but now I'm like, I think that's true. So yeah.
I'd have to concur that you need the support of your family. You also need to put parameters on kind of yourself when you're running. So when I first ran for office, I said I was not going to do any events or any door knocking or anything on Sundays. That was my day. That was my family day. So they always knew that, okay, I might be out campaigning or attending events Monday through Friday or doing my role. But Sundays was the day I was home with them. It was also the day I generally did, all the cooking for the week so that they, had meals prepared so that my husband didn't have to worry about, him having to pick up that slack to a greater extent of because he was working as well. And it was also the communication to know what was going on our kids' calendars. So, what can you attend? What can you not attend? Just making sure everything was all arranged. That made it go a lot smoother.
The thing I would add, I would agree there, as everyone said, is you just transition from running to getting ready. And then you get into, and for city council, I think it's same for school board, that in January, you get right into budget and you're just getting the ground running. So, and for city council, we have it's a 5-day orientation between election day and January 1st. That is half to 3/4 of a day for 5 days. And we tour all the city facilities. We talk about city council operations. I mean, it is really a deep dive into, so that people can get up to speed. So when we're talking about the budget for the resource recovery plan, what that is and what's going on inside of that, the power plant. Go through the parks, the cemeteries. It's very, it's like you just get, hit. So my wife said, because it was an all out assault. That's the wrong term. All out effort until election day. And then she was thinking, well, maybe I got a little bit of a gap, and I was writing hundreds of thank you notes to all the people that really helped me and support, like, Gloria said, having, a team behind you. But then also the orientation and starting to read and get prepped, and then you hit budget. So I think you have to be prepared for the fact that the time will continue. But I think all of us are up here passionate. We're talking a lot longer than we probably should be. That's because we really enjoy what we're doing. And we have such a great community. We have such a great county. I wouldn't want to be anyplace else in the United States than Story County and Ames, Iowa, because of what the people are here and the university. And always be better, sure. But the point is, it's really a great, everything's running extremely well, now. And now at the table is Iowa State University, and they're a tremendous partner with the city and the county as well, too.
So I don't have any experience preparing a family for running. I have no children. I have no grandchildren. I have a husband who was more excited about me running than I was excited about running. So he was preparing me to run. And I think the one thing that I have noticed over these 10 years that I've been on council is that we have to think about when we can take vacations.
Yeah.
And so it can get in the way of just saying, hey, let's go on a trip. Because we have to look at what the meetings are that are coming up, or the elections that are in the near future. And so we sometimes have to subordinate our own plans to that larger plan of the schedule and be willing to do that. And in my case, that was not an issue. And in fact, to be honest, I am mostly on my own because my husband actually teaches at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. So he's in the middle of Nebraska. So this gives me something to do with every Tuesday night, practically. So if you're looking for something like that to keep yourself busy, it's great. It's really worthwhile and such a joy.
Okay, I'm Carolyn Klaus with the League of Women Voters, and I just want you to know that the League of Women Voters is here to support the county, the school, and the city. We very much will be supportive of you in our candidate forums. We want you to fill out information and bios and be on our 411 website. We want to talk about the issues, and we want the community to know who they're voting for. So we will support the city, the schools, and our county in those respects.
Thank you.
Thank you.